Today, we're gonna go deep on reclaiming yourself with my step-by-step guide to self-healing and reparenting yourself. If you've ever felt like something was, missing in your emotional development, if you struggled with self-worth or found yourself repeating unhealthy patterns in relationships, you might need reparenting. So in this episode, we're diving deep into what reparenting is, my top 6 signs that you need to work on this, and my 2-step guide to making it happen. Today, you'll walk away with a ton of actionable strategies, as I always do, to start reparenting yourself, because it's never too late to give yourself the care and validation you deserve. So stay tuned. Well, hello, I'm so glad you're here. You know this is my favorite thing to do every week, is sitting with you and chatting, even though it's a one-way chat, but which is why I love my online community, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And before we jump in, I want to say that there's a ton of action steps here today. I was looking through everything. I always kind of reread after I've written, and I thought, wow, there's a ton here. So you might want to either take notes as we go, or definitely refer later to the corresponding blog to this episode. This is episode 323 on my website. You can just go to where the podcast page is, or the relationship tips and tools page, and you can have access to those. They always link to each other, those two. So, and there's a bunch of free downloads you can get today. There's a feelings list I created to help you really identify those feelings. It's what you got to do if you're going to reparent. I have a list of kind of the top 5 grounding techniques, and a shorter body scan. I've talked about body scans a lot. I have a shorter body scan. It's called the Golden Light Body Scan, which it's like a guided visualization. So that might really help you. My One Love Collective members in my Patreon online community are getting a ton. You're getting journaling prompts to help really deepen the reparenting journey. You're getting a daily reparenting checklist. You're getting a worksheet to help you reparent yourself, which includes just a lot more on how to identify your unmet childhood needs, more on developing self-compassion and strengthening your emotional regulation. And then there's also a healthy household checklist and a guided audio exercise. Yeah, more of my soothing voice coming at you. Who doesn't want that? So, and I'm going to offer something really special today that I've never offered before. So you might love all those extra goodies, but you're not feeling like, joining an online community, or you're in tier 1 of my community and you're only getting some of all those goodies. And, you want what tiers 2 and 3 are getting. So I got this, because I just feel like this topic is so important. I was trying to figure out a way I could offer it to everybody. So I'm going to offer all the downloads that are listed here, the free ones I already mentioned, plus all the downloads that my One Love Collective Patreon community gets, all the things I just listed, plus the blog post, all wrapped up in a neat bow for you. And it's going to be $7.99, $7.99 USD. And I think it's like a mini masterclass in reparenting yourself. I'm really proud of everything I put out always, but this was really hitting me in a big way. So you can find the link on my website. Just navigate over to this episode, number 323. Or if you're watching me on YouTube, hello, like and subscribe. You can. I always raise my voice when I say that. You can just look below the video if you're watching this episode on YouTube, and you'll find the link right there. Okay. So what is reparenting? Reparenting is the process of giving yourself the love, the guidance, and care that you may not have received as a kid. It allows you to really meet your unmet emotional needs. It allows you to build self-worth, create a more nurturing relationship with yourself and other people. And this practice really involves what those unmet needs were. And a lot of us don't even know what they were. So we're going to identify many today. And again, you can go deeper with the sort of being in my community, or this sort of masterclass I offered. Because a lot of us are like fish who don't know they're wet. We don't, if this is what you grew up in. I shared in my last episode about a client who grew up with a very loving single mom who had to work 3 jobs to really make their lives better. So she didn't see them very often. She wasn't there when they came home from school. She couldn't, she actually did, he said, pack lunches most days, not every day. He did it the other days, but he was very affected by this. So in his adult relationships, he was having a really hard time trusting people. He was having a really hard time asking for help, right? You could see that. Even though he very much felt loved and cared for, our child brains just know that someone's not there. Our child brains are more concrete, okay? So let's get into the top 6 signs you may benefit from reparenting. So recognizing the need for reparenting, I would say, is the first step toward healing. And I want to give you some indicators that you might need to do some reparenting. So if you're sitting here still going, well, I don't know, is that for me? Let me give you the symptoms and you can see if it's for you. The first thing is difficulty regulating your emotions. So you might, if you struggle to manage emotions like anger, sadness, or anxiety, if, often feeling overwhelmed or reacting more intensely than the situation calls for, then you might need some reparenting. This is also true if your first response to anything is anger, just that's your go-to, that's a problem. That it should not be your go-to. Whenever something happens you don't like or gets out of, I have a lot of clients where this is true. They go right to anger. And I hear things like, well, anyone would be angry at this. It's like, no, they wouldn't. No, I have to tell clients, no, I wouldn't. I'm one. Like, there's lots of people who wouldn't be angry at this. You are angry at this, and that's really your responsibility. So, for example, you may find yourself crying uncontrollably over, a minor inconvenience or feeling disproportionately, that was a big word I was using. See, I had trouble. Okay. Disproportionately enraged at some kind of perceived slight, right? That's all examples of that. Number 2 is persistent negative self-talk. We all have a little, but I mean when it's sort of the only voice in your head, more or less, and it's its reaction to everything. There's that anger again. If your inner dialogue is dominated by harsh self-criticism or, feelings of unworthiness, it probably is a sign that your inner kid. You notice I keep avoiding the term inner child because that makes me throw up in my mouth a little. But if you like inner child, I love you. That's fine. Put it in wherever I say your inner self or your inner kid or whatever. Your inner kid maybe never received the validation they needed to develop healthy self-esteem. So you might catch yourself thinking, I'm not good enough, or no one will ever truly love me, or everybody leaves me, or those kinds of things. That's a problem. Number 3 is challenges in your relationships. If you frequently find yourself in toxic or unfulfilling relationships, chasing unavailable partners, whatever, miserable in them, fighting a lot in them, it's probably a sign that your early attachments were insecure. And if you look at if you listen to last week's episode, I talked a lot about insecure attachment styles, how they show up, all that. We'll link to all that, of course. So you also may struggle with codependency and you end up attracting emotionally unavailable partners or fearing intimacy and vulnerability. If that's all on your bingo card, then guess what? Number 4, the 4th sign I see the most, these are just signs I see the most, is definitely fear of abandonment or rejection. And again, I did a past episode going deep on this. I've done past episodes. I have so many links in the blog to all the past episodes I've done, because a lot of times I'll state something and the research says, and so if I don't show the research right there, it means, instead I show a blog post, it means you can find the research in that blog post. Because I love you, but I'm not putting everything twice. Otherwise, I do put the research right below whatever I said. So just know that. So this fear of abandonment or rejection, it's a deep fear of being left or not accepted by others that often stems from childhood experiences, usually of neglect or inconsistent caregiving in some way. And it often manifests as you being clingy in your relationships, or needing needing constant reassurance, or difficulty trusting that people will stay. Again, I know I'm repeating myself a little, but this is what shows up the most. The fifth thing that shows up the most for sure is perfectionism. If you feel the need to be perfect, to earn love or avoid criticism, it could be a response for sure to early experiences where affection or approval were conditional on how you acted. They were they were withdrawn if you didn't do the right thing. So this could obviously show up as overworking, people pleasing, just an intense fear of failure, right? All those ways. All right. Number 6. I think I have like 7 of these in my head. Yeah. Number 6 is difficulty trusting others. If you grew up in an environment where caregivers were unreliable, critical, or emotionally abstinent, emotionally absent. Let me take a drink. Sorry, you can hear my voice getting a little gravelly. Wouldn't that be terrible if I got laryngitis? Can you imagine? I had a little last weekend, so I think these are the vestiges. So if that happened, you've likely learned to rely only on yourself, right? If all those things were absent, you gave it to yourself. So that results in probably you struggling to open up, struggling to accept help, or even believing that others have good intentions. I know that I get so many angry people sometimes on even for today's episode, right? I offer something for $7.99, but I have all this free stuff and you could get it in the tiers and whatever. So sometimes people will take that and they're like, oh, you're such a money grabber. And I'm like, I am the opposite of a money grabber. Thank you very much. I give you all the tools. I give you everything you need without having to spend a penny. You have to listen to some ads sometimes, right? That's it. By the way, everything's ad free on my online community, but do you know what I mean though? And so people will say nasty things to me. They clearly don't know me, but they clearly believe that anyone who asks for anything, it can't be trusted. You can't be altruistic. I'm so altruistic in what I do. I really am. Yes, I have to live and feed children and pay college tuition for them. But I'm doing, I started the podcast as give, and it's always been a give to me. I mean, always. And I mean, any of you have been with me a while, and thank you. I love you so much. I love you. You know it. You feel it. You get all the love. You feel everything coming at you. And because it's real. But if you're sitting there now, even now, and wondering she must have an end game here. There's got to be something. Nope. There's just not. I would never do that to you because I hate when it's done to me. So in the last 7 seasons, I've built trust. That's what I've been doing. You can trust me. I am not going to suddenly turn around and do something weird. I have my weekly love letter that goes out. It's $1.99 a month if you want it every week, but it's free. I call it Love Bites when you get it twice a month, the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. I never, ever once in the years I've been doing it have sold anything from there. Have sent you 20 emails or, we call them funnels when you're trying to funnel someone into buying something. Because I hate it. I hate it. So I know you hate it. So don't do it. I just send you an inspirational story. No string attached. No, it just is, right? I'm trying to spread the word. So I might ask you to, share I don't even think I asked that, but I hope you share the newsletter, the love letter. It's not a newsletter. There's no news. It's a love letter. But you know what I'm saying? There's just so much paranoia, so much of people not believing people have their best interests at heart ever, all the time. And I'll tell you, I balance that with my best interests. I don't answer emails in the middle of the night. People write to me all the time with, please don't, with long questions. And I can't read those. I don't have time. I'm so sorry. I just don't. And that would not be taking good care of myself. And it's highly unethical for me to give direct advice in that. I don't know if you've had a sexual trauma history or something. I mean, it's so unethical. So, but I still respond and I say, hey, it's highly unethical for me to respond. Like, that's what I say. I still respond. I still try, but of course I'm keeping my own boundaries of what's moral and ethical, and just what I can do. And I hope you're all doing the same. So let's talk about the 2-step guide to reparenting yourself. And this is going to sound deceptively simple when I say 2 steps, but there's a lot. Okay. So there's 2 main steps you need to follow, but each step has a lot of different ways you can go. So this is the nitty gritty right here. I'm going to go deep. You know, I always say that I'm going to go deep, like I'm something special. Let's go deep. Sorry, I'll try to stop saying that. It's like the word journey. You know, I hate that. On our journey. But sometimes it's the only word I can find. And I throw up in my mouth a little, but I still put it down. You know, it's okay. All the words are nice. Sometimes they're overused in a way that makes me a little crazy. So I'll try to stop saying diving deep. Okay. Is this Abby's therapy session? What are we doing here today? All right. Step 1 is identifying your unmet childhood needs. So before you can start reparenting yourself, you got to recognize what was missing in your childhood. And that's your unmet childhood needs. These are the fundamental emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual requirements that weren't adequately fulfilled during your early development for whatever reasons. Okay? It doesn't matter. Again, could be good intentions. Maybe your parents were working so hard and just never there, but that's a problem, right? So this can include, I'm trying to think, like it includes your need for safety, stability, unconditional acceptance, unconditional love, validation, emotional support, right? The list kind of goes on. So when those needs aren't met, they usually lead to just some kind of dysfunctional patterns, like dysfunctional patterns, you know, of insecurity, low self-esteem, difficulties in relationships, emotional dysregulation, right? Where you can't regulate your own emotions. So identifying those gaps is essential because it helps you understand why you do what you do. You know what to do, and then you don't do what you know. Yeah. What's the gap, right? What is happening there? It's this stuff. It allows you to, when we identify these unmet needs, it allows us to consciously work toward meeting those needs now. Okay? Recognizing what you lacked as a kid empowers you to make healthier choices, to develop a self-compassion, and really break free from all those negative cycles. Again, they're just habits. They're habits of thought, they're habits of action, they're habits of feeling from your childhood. And so I don't want, again, this is not about blaming your parents or caregivers. And I hope you don't, because you are responsible now. If you're an adult listening to this, which I'm assuming you are, this is on you, okay, fully. And you know I'm all about that. But if you can't be real about what happened in your childhood, then you're going to have some problems. You have to be able to be real. I don't know how else to say that. Okay. So it would be helpful, I would say, to reflect on the following questions. As a child, I needed more blank. And then you would fill that in. I needed more affection, more encouragement, more stability, more validation, whatever it is for you. And really write, spend some time on these. This is how you get deeper with this kind of journaling. You don't have to think of it as journaling. You can just think of it as writing. When you write, and try not to type, try to really write with your pretty little hand, because there's definitely, and there's been research on this, there's a connection with writing when we write things like that. I will say, though, if your only option is to type it out, if that's the only way you feel comfortable, then go for it. Go for it. You'll be fine. You'll get so much benefit from it. I'm just, I'm throwing out there that there's sort of a bigger benefit even if you physically write it out. Another prompt I would use is Let me think. When I was upset as a child, my caregivers reacted by, okay, and fill that in. As a kid, I was made to feel that my emotions were, fill it in. One thing I needed to hear but never did was, you know what I mean? And you can even write, and as an adult, I think that's because, right? Maybe, wow, my mom was a single mom and didn't have any time, or my dad was a single dad and didn't have any time, or wow, my mom was an alcoholic, or whatever. My dad was trapped taking care of his parents and us, and it was too much with a full-time job. I don't know. You can think it through. You'll see you have more compassion. I definitely want you to include a prompt that says, I can see that I still struggle with blank because of my unmet childhood needs. Like, I really want you to be able to identify those really, really all the way. And there is something I want you to do. So do that. And then, and this is so powerful, this exercise, I want you to write a letter to your younger self from where you are now. And just pick an age, who you want to write to. Think of a time maybe when you're in a lot of pain. And I have some young people who listen. I don't care if you're 20 or 19. Pick a 8-year-old self. Pick your 5-year-old self. And what I want you to do is write that letter to your younger self. Again, just pick an age. Validating the pain of not having these needs met. So that's why you want to first sort of identify the needs and then write this letter. And this letter is from you as the wise and nurturing adult. I know you don't always feel wise, but you got to put yourself in that stance. So as you're writing from you, and you're now to your younger self, your younger you, who didn't have the information, didn't know about Abby, didn't know about whatever that you have now. So start by acknowledging their struggles, the 5-year-old self or the 8-year-old self, and the emotions they felt growing up. Use compassionate and reassuring language, just as a loving parent would. And I would consider including a few things in that letter. Definitely a validation of their feelings. I see how hurt and lonely you felt, and it makes sense why you were struggling, right? Some reassurance that they weren't to blame for the things that happen, because kid brains work different. Kid brains are so concrete, they're not abstract. And so if you tell your little kid, we're going to go to the playground tomorrow, okay? You say this to a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, 8-year-old, okay, up to bed at age 11. You say, we're going to go to the playground tomorrow. We're going to take you there. It's going to be so much fun. And then later that day, you break your leg. You end up in the hospital all night. I don't know, in the emergency room. You get home. Your kid will say, why aren't we going to the park? And you're like, I broke my leg. I can't go now. To your kid, you lied. Again, lots of research around this, because they can't think like adults. You keep applying your adult brain to your childhood, but you didn't have that as a kid. Frontal lobes were not connected. Your brain is not fully developed to your mid to late 20s. Hello, I don't know how many. I have to say this a lot to people because they can't. Again, you're like a fish not knowing it's wet. You don't understand that who you were then, how you could think about something, how you could address something with your more limited brain function isn't now. Because now, again, like this adult client I had with the mom who's working, he's like, well, I totally understand. And she loved it. And I'm like, yeah, now you do. But you didn't understand at 5. You didn't understand it, when you were literally letting yourself in the house, right? And riding the subway alone. You didn't understand it then. So you hear where I'm going here? Yeah. Okay. So you might think like you deserve to be loved and supported. And it was never your fault that you didn't receive that. Something like that is what you might write, right? I'd also like you to include some encouraging words about how you're now here to take care of them, right? Your adult self is here and can hold, again, your inner child, however you want to see this, right? You want to say to them, I'm here for you. I'll protect you, nurture you in the way you always needed, because I know exactly what you need. I'm going to say all the things to you you need to do. And I really want you to take your time writing this letter. Just allow yourself to connect emotionally with your younger self. And you may find it helpful to read it aloud or keep it somewhere safe to return to when you need a reminder of your self-worth and your resilience and, all the things you have. Okay. I'm hoping that all makes sense. Step 2. See, I said 2 steps. You thought it was going to be really quick. No, it's more time. Step 2 is follow the 2 key practices for reparenting. Okay. So there's 2, you got to follow these 2 things now, which are emotional regulation and self-acceptance. Okay. You can't reparent without those. So now you've identified what was missing. Now you can begin filling those gaps with conscious self-care and emotional support. Imagine yourself, again, as a wise, supportive mentor to your younger self, someone who understands, who nurtures and guides your younger self with, compassion, patience, love. So reparenting involves adopting the role, think of it that way, of the loving, stable caregiver you may not have had, and providing yourself with the emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual, whatever support you needed, and that it's huge. I don't even know what to say. So let's talk about emotional regulation, which is, of course, the ability to recognize, manage, and respond to your emotions in a healthy and constructive way. Okay. I think I said that pretty well. There you go. I'm going to write that down. It involves understanding your feelings, controlling impulsive reactions, and adapting to emotional experiences without becoming overwhelmed, shutting down, walking away, whatever, right? So, and the fundamental kind of components of emotional regulation, and again, I did a step-by-step guide to this. There's a whole chapter in my Boundaries Made Easy book about this. Like I have it in lots of other places that I will link to, but I'm going to give you a little something now. So emotional regulation includes self-awareness, of course. And self-awareness, remember, is not the same as mindfulness, but they go hand in hand. Self-awareness means you know yourself as fully as possible and have very few blind spots. It means you can recognize your strengths, recognize your limitations, almost like a third person a little bit. And it's judgmental. Self-awareness is judgmental. I'm controlling. I share that all the time, right? I'm very aware that I'm self-aware that I'm controlling and that I get controlling when I get scared. So I am judging that, but not in a mean way. I'm not like, what's wrong? Yeah, why do you still do this? I'm like, oh, there she goes. There goes. I used to call her the diva. I don't anymore, but, there goes Abby. Here she goes, off in her controlling mode. Like, I see it and recognize it, and it's something I want to change about myself, right? I've really been working on it. Believe it or not, I'm way less controlling than I used to be. So when you add mindfulness to self-awareness, it means you recognize and name your emotions as they arise. So if I'm being mindful, I'm really practicing my mindfulness, I'll be talking maybe to my wonderful son, Max, and giving him lots of suggestions for what he should be doing, and I'll catch myself. Right away. I can feel the anxiety because I'm worried about him or whatever. I can feel the tightness in my chest. I always feel that one in my chest. The control comes like my shoulders clench, like my jaw clenches, my shoulders rise. I can feel it, which is wonderful. And I purposefully push down my shoulders. And of course, I'll even say out loud, I am so sorry. I was controlling mom just then. Can we try again? That's how the mindfulness works. And so hopefully you can catch yourself in a feeling quicker than you otherwise would. You know how you facepalm hours later and oh, why did I say that? Why didn't I say that or whatever? Now you do it in the moment. Okay. Another component is definitely impulse control, which means you can, of course, pause before reacting impulsively to your emotions. You can act, not react. There's also cognitive reframing, which I've talked about a ton on the podcast. Life is happening for you, not to you. It's just another point of view. You take on a new perspective You reframe your thoughts to change how you feel about a situation or a person, right? Because you feel the way you think. There's emotional acceptance, which really translates to you allowing yourself to feel emotions without judgment or suppression, right? Or criticism. I know, so great. There's, of course, the self-regulation, which I just did an entire 2-part episode on a few weeks ago. I think it dropped. But self-regulation requires, you to use techniques, maybe deep breathing, mindfulness, physical activity to really regulate your emotions. And obviously therapy is in there and other things. There's effective expression, which is really important, which means you're communicating your emotions appropriately rather than bottling them up or exploding, or doing both. And I want to give you a quick thing about why emotional regulation matters, because the research is hard here. It comes from your neck. It comes right for your neck. I'm going to tell you right now. Whenever I read it, I'm like, ooh. The research shows that emotional regulation matters because it helps maintain healthy relationships, but because it reduces your reactive and defensive behavior, right? And again, there's research showing this. It improves mental health. It reduces stress, anxiety, depression, symptoms of PTSD. It enhances your decision making. It prevents you from, your emotions from clouding your judgment. It fosters resilience. It allows you to navigate challenges without being consumed by your emotions. It promotes self-compassion. It helps you respond to your own emotions with kindness and patience. So, you have signs of poor emotional regulation when you have frequent emotional outbursts or shutting down, when you have difficulty calming down after a stressful event, when you have impulsive reactions without thinking, if you're constantly, face palming, when when you're feeling emotionally overwhelmed and unable to cope with consistency, when you're using unhealthy coping mechanisms, like avoidance, substance use, which includes alcohol use, of course, aggression. And again, the good news is that the research shows many effective ways to improve your emotional regulation. Isn't that nice? So again, you can go back and listen to my episodes, but you got to practice mindfulness. If you haven't downloaded my mindfulness starter kit by now, please put a keyword in of mindfulness on my website. There's a ton of blogs and recordings, episodes I have. You also want to develop a more specific emotional vocabulary, really being able to name your emotions and getting to the ones that are under resentment, frustration, impatience, anger. When you can get to those, it's amazing. Naming your feelings, again, from the research, it helps reduce their intensity. But if I remember back in the day, I knew like 5 feelings. I knew like when I'm kind of happy. I knew when I was sad, when I was angry, which I never was, of course, because I was such a good girl. Did I have others? Bored? Yeah, I think those were all my feelings. And I know, crazy, right? So, and again, this is elementary, but I'm just going to say it again in case this is your first time listening. You never say, I'm anxious. You say, I'm having anxious feelings. And it's, again, research behind it showing that when you say it that way, when you say I'm anxious, you're labeling yourself and you're creating something that is like forever. When you say I'm having anxious feelings, it puts it outside yourself and again, reduces the intensity. And because I love you, you can download I have a free feelings list, because with all there's a lot of feelings. There's like 100 on there or something. And it'll help you have more specific words for all that you might be feeling, which I think is really important. You also need to challenge negative thoughts and reframe situations, again, in a more balanced way. I don't have problems. I have some obstacles I need to get past, that kind of thing. Again, all that cognitive reframing, did an episode, all be linked. Use deep breathing or grounding techniques to calm your nervous system. And I just thought of this. I'm also, because there's only love today, there's only everything today, I have a list of grounding techniques that you can download. There's like 5 of them on there, I think, the most popular ones. Again, they're from the research. They're not something I came up with. So, I think that'll really help you. And the golden light body scan that I mentioned is also great. And definitely practice pausing before you respond to give yourself some space to, just really respond thoughtfully instead of reactively. So that's the biggie. But again, you have to be self-aware. You have to be mindful. You have to be in the moment to stop yourself from just blah, blah, that verbal diarrhea. And when you feel triggered, you have to pause and ask yourself, what would a kind and supportive mentor say to me right now, right? What would my 80-year-old self, depending on your age, say to me right now? Or think of what I'm going through. So great, I have to tell you, so great. And, I'm practicing self-soothing techniques like, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation. Again, I have a body scan that's on my Patreon, but I also have this golden light body scan, which is much shorter, that you can try to see if body scans feel like they could work for you. Just visualizing a comforting place, yeah. Any of those things would really, really help. And again, my step-by-step guide to managing your emotions, I'll link to it. I feel like that's just like ground zero of what you need to look at. And what's great is that you can look at that and then this 2-part episode I did on self-regulation. Self-regulation is not the same as managing your emotions. Those are 2 different things. And a lot of people kind of conflate them, put them together in a way that they shouldn't be. You should be doing both separately. Okay? I know. Those 2 episodes, again, I'll link to them, but are called like emotional healing. And then one says self-regulation and one says mindfulness and self-acceptance or compassion. Okay. I'm hoping this all makes sense. So I would, even if you're in my Patreon, I would try to also listen to the golden light body scan, because you can really get an idea of the other ways they can happen, not just the one way from the research that I have available to you. So the second key to reparenting yourself is self-compassion. And that is the foundation of emotional healing and reparenting. It allows you to meet yourself with understanding instead of criticism. It helps you cultivate self-worth, resilience, all the good things, patience. And so most people who grow up in neglectful or invalidating environments, they develop an internal voice that's pretty harsh and quite dismissive or really perfectionistic, like you just can never do enough. And so when you replace that self-judgment with kindness, you've got healing. You've got to get there. So, and again, the research shows that self-compassion matters because it reduces feelings of shame and self-judgment, which makes it easier, of course, to process these more difficult emotions. It helps you recover from setbacks, right? Because it's fostering sort of a growth mindset instead of, self-punishment. It self-compassion rewires negative thought patterns that stem from early childhood, all this childhood conditioning, these habits that you formed. It improves your self-worth and emotional resilience, which of course leads to, healthier relationships with other people, with yourself. I mean, come on. I did, of course, an entire episode on self-compassion and more. I've done a few. So you really have to check it out. And the one I keep talking about this whole time is, just speaking to yourself with the same warmth and encouragement you'd offer a best friend or you'd offer your kid, instead of that harsh self-judgment. Again, have some self-kindness, acknowledge your efforts, acknowledge your progress. If you make a mistake, remind yourself that imperfection is part of being human. Growth comes from learning, not from punishment, right? And again, I've done episodes on specifics for learning, again, self-compassion, but I'm going to give you a few right now, just really, really quickly, because I've gotten feedback from you all that you don't just want to be referred to past episodes. So affirmations, you got to replace self-criticism with some, gentle encouragement that you can believe, and you might have to always go back a little till you believe it. You can, I have one client, what does she say? Because she's really a perfectionist. She says, well, I'm working on growing every day. Every day I do something to work on my growth. I go, great, make that your affirmation. I say I'm worthy of kindness. Like, I'm worthy of joy. Those are things I sort of say to myself. So write down or say affirmations, aloud as much as you can, at least daily, because it'll reinforce a more positive mindset. And then you want to reframe negative self-talk when you notice self-judgment creeping in. You want to ask yourself, again, would I say this to a close friend, my kid, my partner? Maybe it would, but be careful. But if you shouldn't, then there you go. And if not, if you wouldn't say it to them, then reframe the thought into something more compassionate, right? Again, like, I'm doing the best I can with the tools I have. That's my favorite. So the other thing you have to do is self-care as self-compassion. You want to show yourself kindness through actions like taking breaks when needed, nourishing your body with good food, doing something that brings you joy. No drugs and alcohol. Yeah, I know they don't bring you joy. You know that. They bring you relief and help you ignore issues. They help you step outside yourself. I want you to reach for true joy. Okay. There was a quote, I don't know who it was, that I think I heard Deepak Chopra say it, but I think he said he was quoting someone else. So happiness is always for a reason. Joy is happiness for no reason. Yeah. Think like that. So, and again, when you hear self-care, don't go to like, I get a massage and I'll run 10 miles a day. And no, those are all on your to-do list and make you sadder. Notice I was like, sit in bed with a warm blanket. I don't know, drink your favorite tea. Like, just give it, nourish yourself. Just think of nourishing yourself. Instead of doing things, think of what would nourish me right now? Talking to your best friend on the phone. I don't know, whatever would nourish you. And I've been saying it over and over, but I'll just say it again, to visualize a supportive figure, right? Whenever self-compassion feels difficult for me, I really do imagine a wise and loving, I imagine a wise and loving me at like 85 or 90, talking to myself now. But you could imagine a loving mentor, a caregiver, your future self speaking kindly to you. What would they say? Try embodying that supportive voice in your own self-talk. Really important. And then you got to meet your needs. You have to identify what you lack growing up and find ways to provide it for yourself now in whatever way that works. If you need more emotional safety, start practicing healthy boundaries. That will help. Trust me. If you needed encouragement, celebrate your own wins and accomplishments, right? Do that daily. And I mean like, oh, I took a shower today. Great. Goes in the win column. I'm not saying give yourself a trophy. I'm not saying like, woo, I'm amazing. I'm the best. I took a shower. I'm saying if showers are even remote, I have a lot of people in my practice who showering just escapes them. For some reason, it doesn't feel like something they like to do. And I've met many other people like this too. And so for you, if you shower, give yourself one pat on the back. Definitely start building some healthy habits. You want to create a sacred, consistent routine that really fosters your well-being. So, regular self-care activities, again, like journaling, mindfulness, movement, spending time in nature. That doesn't work for me, but if it works for you, that's great. And I do have a step-by-step guide to starting your day right. I think there's nothing more important than how you start your day. And that's why I have a step-by-step guide for it. Again, all linked. Again, if you do nothing else today, go back to that and start a morning routine. It will totally change your day. If your alarm went off and you just press snooze 20 times and then we're running late, but decided to lay in bed and smoke some cigarettes and eat a box of donuts and drink, I don't know, sugary coffee or something, would you expect to have a great productive day? Would you think like, I am setting myself up for success? No. So, and that is so important to start the day really well. You know that most of us, when we start the day poorly, we sort of go, oh, I'll start again tomorrow. And that day is just lost. And then we usually do really bad things. So really important. Healing through connection, also really important. You need to surround yourself with people who respect you, who uplift you. And if past experiences that you've had have made trusting others hard, take gradual steps to build safe, meaningful relationships. It doesn't have to be done overnight, but you need to look for them. And then, of course, you can listen to, like, I think it's really good and so effective. Again, the research backs me up. To listen to a loving kindness meditation. I would do that at least twice per week if this is a thing for you. I will link to it. I have a loving kindness meditation that's from the script is from the research, like what you're supposed to do. And that's on YouTube, and I'll link to that. But it's really helpful. If you look at the comments on that video, a lot of people say, I cried doing this. So if that scares you, don't worry. But it's such a great way to really connect. I listen to it once a week. I don't listen to my own voice. I can't do that, but I listen to others. Cheryl Salzberg, what the hell's her name? Why am I forgetting? She's the famous person who's really like into this self-kindness meditations and forging the research that went behind it. So I listen to her, I think. Is that her? I don't know. But if you're on Insight Timer or any of those other Calm, Headspace, there's plenty of them. Okay, if you don't want to listen to me. So, and I know this is a lot, right? As I wrote it, I knew it was a lot. As I'm saying it, I know it's a lot. So I'd like you to choose one of these practices and focus on really making it a habit, then seeing how you feel. So if you do it for at least 6 weeks to 2 months, and then just see, can I add something? Should I take this one away and do something different instead? Is it really not working for me, right? Please go easy. I always give a lot because, that's who I am. I just know that you're all from different parts of the world. You're all kinds of different genders and backgrounds and religion. I mean, all the things. So I'm trying to appeal to the most, like I try to give like 10 things you can do, because I know if I gave one or two, if you're from a certain culture, like nothing is going to hit. And I want something to hit from wherever you're from. Here in the United States, we have a lot of cultures, same thing. So that's why there's a lot. It's not meant to overwhelm you. It's not meant to make you think like, I need to do it all, because you don't. And so I want to wrap up saying that to me, reparenting is a really powerful way to break free from the past and to really step into the self-loving, self-nurturing person you were always meant to be. And every small step you take is a step towards emotional freedom. Don't you want freedom? Oh my gosh, right? You want freedom. So when you nurture your younger self and you address the past, what really happened, the hurts, you can create a more fulfilling and authentic life now, right now. And that's, I think, what we all want, right? Okay. All right. That is it for today. I love you. Thank you so, so much for being here with me. It means the world. I hope you have an amazing week, and definitely do all the downloading. All right. I'll talk to you real soon.